watching Cron On. We begin right now with breaking news.
Happening right now, authorities on the ground in San Jose near the gunman's home are delivering the latest information. Let's listen in.
Of course, Santa Clara County Office of the Sheriff, who have assisted us and have really made this go forward. We, in fact, are in a partnership with the Sheriff's Office in this investigation. And as we proceed with the investigation today, they will be providing you updates in regards to any and all evidence found and located inside the residence. I'm happy to discuss any topics related to the safe removal of suspicious packages, but I have to defer any and all evidentiary findings to the Sheriff's Office on this occasion. That being said, I'd like to turn over the stand to my counterpart in the fire department, who has a few words to talk about in regards to their process of what they did today.
Thank you. Erica Ray, Public Information Manager, San Jose Fire Department, spelled E-R-I-C-A-R-A-Y. Our arson team has been out here for a number of days, as you know, collecting evidence diligently. We're working very closely with our partner agencies here to ensure a very thorough investigation. Once the findings of that investigations are concluded, we will be sure to provide that evidence to the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office, who, again, as Officer Aponte has mentioned, will release the information. And with that, we are available if you have any questions.
Can you release any kind of evidence that you guys found?
As this fire is still under investigation, there are really no details that we can release at this time.
So what have you found inside the house? What kind of firearms or any devices? Can you describe what you actually located?
So all evidence collected and details of this home and fire are included in that investigation, so we really cannot speak or release those details at this time.
Without asking about evidence, does it appear that this was a distraction tactic, something used to divide response?
I cannot speculate on whether this was a distraction.
Have you been able to determine what started the fire initially?
That is the goal with the arson investigation. The goal is to determine how this fire started, and that's the evidence we've been trying to collect and will be part of our thorough investigation.
Eric, I know at this point you can't get specific on what you found. Can you give the residents around here some idea of maybe the dangers that they were facing from devices and or materials that you found inside them?
As far as danger to the residents in the area, you know, San Jose PD has done a really tremendous job being sure that any residents in the immediate vicinity have been informed of any potential hazards. Out of an abundance of caution, residents in the immediate court and in the rear of the home were asked to clear the area over the last couple of days. So we have ensured the safety of all of the nearby residents.
How far away was the perimeter for that?
The perimeter of the homes that we asked to clear the area was the immediate court here on Ingmar, and then 4 homes to the rear of that on Jan Marie Court.
And Officer Aponte, you mentioned there was one ordinance, we heard 2 fire in the hole.
Correct. There was one test run that failed to actually render the device safe, and that was just a technical issue that happens occasionally with some of these pieces of equipment. But ultimately, the second charge, which was used, was successful in rendering that package safe. Ultimately, the package that was discovered was inert, again comprised solely of batteries and some wiring. But out of a precaution, the secondary charge was used specifically to make sure that there was no threat.
What does that tell you, that it was strategically an inert object that he intended to fool?
Well, no, you know, the location of the item was inside the attic, and it's very customary in this kind of situation that people have random objects inside of their attics. The other issue that we're bringing up on this is that this individual was living in a type of hoarder situation, which further hampered the efforts of fire and police officers, and of course our other partners in collecting evidence, moving freely through the residence itself. In addition to the damage that has already been mentioned, the additional items that were located in the house were so great that it took quite a bit of time to carefully maneuver and safely make the job happen today.
Would you describe the house as cluttered inside?
Yes, I would describe it as cluttered. I would describe it as a possible hoarder situation that is to be determined by other experts, but at this time there are several pieces of items that obviously you can see from the exterior of the perimeter that is very cluttered in that neighboring area of the driveway, and so that extends throughout the house itself, and again was a challenge for our officers to maneuver through.
Can you talk about safety, after fire, to be able to access an attic area after fire, and then also...
I'll defer any fire questions to the PI.
And then how do you guys actually get it?
Well, I can't go into the specifics of what kind of equipment that we utilize in terms of detonation, and then detonation is not what we did today. What we did is render the item safe. So it's suspicious, it looks like it might be something that it is. We cover it, we make sure that it's safely so that there is no danger to the public, there's no danger to the officers, there's no danger to the residences. It occurs, as you heard, a small pop, very minimal, almost less than louder than a firework. And then after that, we go and investigate and see what it was. After we investigated, we discovered the item was actually inert, batteries and wiring inside of a box.
How do you trigger the hammer? Do you light it?
I'm not going to get into the specifics of how we utilize the equipment that we use to make that happen.
And were the batteries and wires in something?
That is the package that we described being suspicious in nature.
Yeah, but what it looked like.
I don't know what the specifics are, whether it was a box or a bag, or I don't know that.
Is it possible?
Len.
Steve, when you say hoarder, were there items of value that were cluttered in there, or we're talking about a trash situation?
I don't know. I haven't been inside of the residence. That was provided to me by officers and personnel who made entrance into the building itself, that it was very cluttered, lots of materials blocking passageways and entryways. Obviously, when I say a hoarder situation, we're not going to discuss what types of hoarders there are and what types of materials there are, but we can just say that the items in the residence were so greatly piled up that it was hampering the investigation and the access to the locations that they needed to check. Question here.
Is it possible you can take us on the other side of the
No.
road so we can get...
The area will be closed off for the next several hours.
How about
Yes.
after several hours?
So the neighbors can have their homes back by this evening?
Yes, that's the plan. After we clear the area and make sure that every nook and cranny has been rendered safe, we're going to make sure to pick up our gear, and the neighbors and residents will be returning back to home. The residence itself will be boarded up and secured so that we don't have people wandering in there after the fact. But ultimately, the hope is that we get our residents back into their homes feeling safe and secure, knowing that we took care of everything inside the house that could be a danger to them. And fire was going to follow up on terms of the dangers of the attic.
Can you ask your question again?
Oh, just post-fire, were there dangers and hazards you guys had to work with to be able to go through the house and even find out what was in the attic?
Once the initial fire was knocked down, we ensured that there were no fire hazards inside, and that's when our arson team moved in. So that I can't really speak to more details than that.
Like sometimes the floors get unstable, that kind of thing.
The fire inside did seem to burn quickly through the home, so the damage was there. We didn't have a roof collapse or anything like that, so the investigation was able to move forward inside without the concern of the home falling on them.
Why did the 911 call to the shooting is after? I mean, it's before the call for the fire. Is there any? What is your explanation for that? It's like 4 minutes or 6 minutes. After.
4 minutes.
So the morning of the shooting incident on Younger Avenue, there were 2 other significant fires that San Jose Fire was confronted with. And the order of those calls, were the order in which we received reports to our dispatch center. So the call for Younger did come through before the call for this house fire. And it was just the way that they were reported, right? We had a passerby in this neighborhood that reported the fire. They had seen smoke coming from the home, and that's when we dispatched resources.
Given that we saw those huge black smoke clouds coming from the house in video, can you describe how much damage was done to the inside of the house? I know you said the roof didn't collapse, which we could see from the aerials, but inside, how much destruction?
So damage to this home by firefighters was described as heavy. It is uninhabitable at this time.
Is it clear what hours the fire was active on Wednesday?
The initial call came through just after 6:30, and we had it the fire knocked down by about 7:26, I believe was the time. And our last firefighting unit cleared the scene shortly after 9 a.m. So that is the timeline that I can provide at this time.
Can you speak to, like, last night we saw a lot of fuel cans in the street. Can you speak to that? What type of potential dangers those cans, whatever they contain, might have been to responders?
Obviously, any fuels that we may find on scene are assessed, and we want to be cautious for the safety of our responders. So any, they responded as they normally do, right? They are very cautious when entering a fire scene, very aware of their surroundings, so they assessed and proceeded with their firefight.
Yeah, sure. I just want to clean up one point that I misspoke on earlier when I said in the initial charge, when they're trying to render the device safe, that is actually, the first charge was a misfire. Just to clean that up a bit, the second charge, when you heard the secondary pop, that was the successful charge that rendered the device safe. So just verbiage and mincing words a bit, but it was a misfire on the initial one. Other questions?
There's only one device.
Sorry, he had the first one, and I'll get back to you.
Yeah, can you speak to the potential threat or intention of this perpetrator having explosive devices in his home, setting a fire, and then going over and doing what he did? Is it anybody's, can you summarize what his intentions may have been? Does it look like he was trying to blow up his house and maybe take some, neighbors' homes with it?
Well, first of all, in regards to devices located in the residence, the devices that we located, or device that we located and rendered safe, was inert, non-explosive. Batteries and wiring.
There's a lot of materials that are explosive.
Obviously, in a hoarder situation, there are a lot of flammable items. I'm not going to get into that. Obviously, my counterpart can summarize that. As to the intent of the fire and the intent of the initial event, that's still under investigation. And as of right now, I know that our detectives, the sheriff's detectives, our fire arson investigators are all working very diligently to find out. I'm sure there's lots of rumor and lots of thought about what happened and why it happened, but at this point it's too early to decide that in the investigation.
So,
Miss?
You're saying, we're together. So it's incorrect to say explosive devices were found at this home.
I'm talking about specifically today.
Yeah.
And as the investigation develops and an after action report is done, there may be detailed information that comes out in regards to devices or explosive devices.
Okay.
But at this time, we're not confirming that. What we are confirming is that a device that we believe to be suspicious was rendered safe and resulted being inert.
You're willing to speak to that one specific device?
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
That's why I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Additionally, I'm just going to try, but Molotov cocktails. We've had reports from multiple sources. Molotov cocktails were discovered here. Complete Molotov cocktails that did not explode in the fire.
Certainly. I don't have any of that information, and honestly, the sheriff's office is going to be the one who updates that information, hopefully later today, with not only information about devices recovered, evidence recovered, and the totality of what's happening as they progress through their investigation.
And that device was spotted today? That's why it was detonated today?
Yes, yes. As officers in the bomb squad move their way through the attic, which is really the final portion of what they go through, and can safely access, they located this device. They were unable to really manipulate it to see what it was, but it had enough of the components to appear to be suspicious in nature, and in doing so, they rendered it inert. After making it safe, they discovered it was in fact an inert item that was just debris, including batteries and wiring.
Package, or how was it?
I don't know the specific details of that, but I can assume that it was a package or an item.
Is it clear how long this investigation could take in total, given the hoarder situation?
In regards to securing the premises today, we're hoping that we're going to return the house back to its status, have our units clear the area, and have the neighborhood return back to the residents. In regards to the totality of the investigation altogether, with evidence completed, that's going to be ongoing.
Okay.
Obviously, it's going to be a very detailed investigation, which Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office will be taking the lead. Any other questions, folks? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, today I gotta get
I'm not very technical with this thing.
That's okay.
You've been watching a conference with investigators outside of the gunman's home in the South Bay in San Jose, to be exact. They said that they are still in the process of investigating that home, as you know, that caught fire at around the same time that the gunman entered the VTA rail yard and then started his shooting rampage, claiming the lives of 9 of his co-workers. And now we have learned more about inside the home and what investigators have come in contact with. So apparently the inside of that home is being described by that team out there as a type of hoarder situation. They didn't go into detail on what kinds of items were scattered throughout this home, but did say that it was enough and piled up enough to obstruct some of the team from getting inside in a timely fashion. So that's why they've been there for quite some time. They're still combing the area for any details and more leads into a possible motive here for this unfortunate mass shooting in the South Bay, the second in the last 2 years. We didn't really learn more about what exactly ignited that fire. That is still under investigation, and it has not yet been released what sort of object was found in there that might have caused people to believe that there was an explosive device, but apparently that was rendered safe. A bomb squad ended up going inside and making sure that whatever that device was not going to pose a danger to that community and the neighborhood living on that street. You can see very much an active scene still here today. The San Jose police truck heading down that street. So quite the disruption for neighbors, but of course they want to make sure that everything is cleared up and all evidence is collected for this really crucial time as we try to piece together what exactly happened to have Samuel Cassidy compel himself to do such a heinous act. So the VTA did receive some questions about what the suspect and his work out there. So they did respond saying that VTA Guadalupe Light Rail Yard shooting attack involving Sam Cassidy. They said that he was scheduled to report for a regular workday on Wednesday, and they clarified that there was not a disciplinary hearing. There was going to be held relating to Cassidy on Wednesday, so clearing up a rumor or a speculation there. They also said that the VTA does not speak for the unions that represent their employees. The Cassidy was represented by the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 265. They also said that they are reviewing all VTA records that pertain to Cassidy and hope to be able to release more information as soon as possible. But again, in regards to that active scene that is happening at the gunman's home, you can see still that space is cordoned off. There are crews out there that are still combing for any sort of evidence to be able to piece together what exactly happened. How did the fire at his home end up going off? Was it planned? They did not mention that it was at all a distraction tactic. That is possibly still part of the investigation, as we've been talking about, given the timeline of events and that it happened all consecutively as he arrived at the rail yard. So we're going to bring you more information as it becomes available. We're going to hear from our reporter on the ground, Charles Clifford, shortly. In the meantime, you're watching Clara, the Bay Area streaming news. We're going to have more after the break.